Hey, what's up guys? This is Munir Lazuni with AML Fitco Elite Fitness Coaching. Today we're going to be talking about my top 3 foam roller exercises to be performed before an upper body lift. So that includes your bench press and your overhead press. Now you can also do these exercises prior to doing deadlifts, and as you've seen in the top 3 foam roller exercises for squat and deadlift, we haven't really addressed the upper body, even though the upper body is involved in deadlifts, and even though when we do deadlifts, we need to be in thoracic extension instead of thoracic flexion, where we could potentially hurt our back and have bad biomechanics. Today we're just going to talk about upper body though, and again, feel free to do this before your back and deadlift day, because it's going to help regardless in opening up your shoulders after a day of sitting in front of the computer. So first up, we're going to roll out our chest, back, and rotator cuff. So the beautiful thing is that you can get all 3 of these things in one very simple exercise. It takes about 30 seconds. You're going to start by rolling into your chest, okay? Now you may or may not have tight spots in here, but most people are going to have a tight or tender spot within that chest or pectoralis muscle. So there's a couple different things going on here. You got your pec major, your pec minor, okay? There's probably going to be some tightness in some form there, and you also have a variety of other muscles as we go back here. We've got the teres, we got the serratus and subscapularis, we've got a variety of different rotator cuff muscles, even your lattice tying in here. So we're going to be able to address all those different muscles whose names you don't need to know, by the way. You just need to open them up so you don't injure yourself. And by just rolling over them in this fashion, it actually is going to make a significant difference. Now there are other ways of getting in deeper and pinpointing these muscles and giving them a deeper release, but for 90% of people, this is going to be sufficient to alleviate many shoulder injuries and open things up after sitting in front of the computer for a long time. So you're going to do 10 times forward and back. I'm going to show you guys another angle real quick. We want to turn our palm up as we come back to facilitate gravity. Because if I'm here, I'm not going to get the full range of motion. But when I go all the way here, it creates that little bit of supination that gets more of an angle on that rotator cuff. But again, see where you feel it most. Maybe you feel it better when you do this. Maybe you feel it better when you do this. One thing you're going to see within our program is that we're developing a personal dietary and training philosophy. See, I almost said personal training. That would have been kind of funny. But either way, the chest and back and rotator cuff is that first foam roller exercise. It should take you about 30 seconds on each side. And I already noticed a significant difference where my neck feels looser because it's no longer being pulled on by these areas here. So after this video, I'm going to have to even out on my other side. Now next up, the upper back opener. If you watched the previous video for my top 3 foam roller exercises for squat and deadlift, you've already seen how to do the upper back. Now, I'm going to show you guys again, and I'm going to start from the side angle this time, okay? So, or actually I think that's the angle I'll start from last time. You're going to roll over your upper back. You can keep your hands behind your head. That's usually where I like to do it. If you want to get really between the shoulder blades, you can bring your elbows forward a bit, which I like doing as well. But for the purposes of the actual exercise, we're going to bring our hands here and elbows back so that our chest opens as we do the upper back opener. This is an amazing exercise that fixes your posture after sitting. So you're going to anchor your butt on the ground, bring your shoulders back towards the ground as close as you can. Don't worry if you can't touch the ground, that's totally fine. You're going to do 10 times forward and back, 10 times side to side, 10 times twisting. Now, to show you guys from another angle, because a lot of people do get the side to side and twisting confused, as they are similar, we're going to start right here. Again, elbows back, bring yourself, so you're going to do 10 reps with forward and back. On the 10th rep, stay in the back position and you're going to go side to side. From there, twisting. We're going to do 10 of each movement, and your upper back is going to be fully mobilized so you can move freely. Now, the final foam roller exercise that I want you guys to do before upper body day is going to be your serratus, okay? So this is a muscle that a lot of people don't really think about. We've already addressed it a bit with the previous exercise, but your serratus into oblique becomes quite tight when we sit a lot, because when you're hunched over, whether it's on your cell phone or on your computer, your rib cage is being compressed. Now the upper back opener is going to address that mostly sufficiently for prior to squats, but I'd actually even recommend doing the serratus before you do deadlifts. Definitely before bench press and overhead press, because the last thing you want is your tight serratus pulling here and then you're trying to press overhead like this. You can't even get your hands overhead, and if you do, you're causing all kinds of grinding and pain in this front part of the shoulder. You're not using the back and side of your shoulder, so not only does that interfere with your development of an aesthetic physique, but it also can lead to injuries. So we want to be in thoracic extension, and one thing that's going to help a lot with that is releasing our serratus. So your serratus is an interesting muscle. It kind of ties in by the ribs all the way up to your rotator cuff and shoulder area, and it actually articulates with a lot of the different muscles in the rotator cuff, like the subscapularis. Now don't worry, I like to geek out on anatomy, but you don't need to know any of these terms. You just got to know which stretches to do. I'm going to go with a 45-degree angle so I can really show you guys what to do. So what you're going to do is kind of start up in your armpit area, and you're going to roll down along your rib cage. Now you may be thinking, of course this hurts, it's my freaking ribs, man. But The reality is there's a muscle in there, your serratus, that is becoming tight, the anterior serratus specifically, and that's going to sabotage your efforts to retract your shoulders and get proper form on your bench and overhead press. So what you're going to do once you find that spot is you're going to lift up and you're going to do a shoulder press motion. So pretend that you're pressing your shoulders overhead. I like to go thumb up, I like to go thumb down, I like to alternate, I like to do more than 10. And then you can even do this motion. Now, if you're having trouble getting the full range of motion back here, you can also do this on top of a bench. And I actually have another video on my YouTube channel, Munir, where I specifically address the serratus and how to do that on a bench, as well as your lat and other muscles in the area. So the serratus is very important because when we release the anterior serratus, that allows us to use our posterior serratus, which is back here. So here's the anterior, here's the posterior serratus, along with our lats and lower traps to get thoracic extension, get our shoulder blades back and down, and have a much better squat, bench, deadlift, overhead press. So if you have time, I'd even recommend doing this before squats. It isn't 100% mandatory or required, but these are definitely my top 3 before upper body day, and if you can, try to do them before your other days too, especially if you have chronic pain or injuries. Now, as far as upper body goes, there are more corrective exercises and stretches that I like to do in addition to the foam rolling, but these top 3 will serve you well. If you'd like to see some more foam rolling exercises to correct your chronic pain and movement disorder or posture before you do upper body days, bench press, and overhead press, feel free to check out my YouTube channel for more free resources. Munir, whether you're a part of my program or not, it'll benefit you in succeeding in your quest for fitness and staying injury free and having the longevity to accompany your achievements and the mindset you're developing, especially if you're in your program. All right, guys? I look forward to seeing you in the next video, and thanks so much. Leave feedback, and I look forward to hearing from you and your success stories with these foam rolling exercises. Talk to you soon.